What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to yet another episode of our weekly podcast. We are batting practice. We got a great one for you tonight. As you can see, we are down a member. We are riding, let's just say riding solo, but we're riding duo, I
Yeah,
guess,
we are.
instead of trio. Um, Jacob is MIA tonight. He's busy. He's got work and stuff. Gets in the way of life, of course. We're currently working on figuring out a schedule that works best for everybody. Uh, so be on the lookout for that. Things might change a little bit. So we appreciate your support through the craziness, but we're working on it. Um, well, we're gonna also, on top of things looking a little different, they might sound a little different too. We're gonna trial a little. I guess it's not really a different format. We're just gonna add a little more structure into what we're doing tonight. And it's gonna kind of hopefully open the door for what we're doing in the future. I'm gonna leave it at that in typical So Rare fashion. A little cliffhanger to start the pod. But So Rare MLB will still be a big part of what we talk about for sure. And that's what we're starting off with tonight because we've got some fun, exciting things coming up in the near future.
Collection game?
Andrew,
Collection game?
what do we got going on?
I think the Sorare MLB community knows when we record these or tries when we put it out on Twitter. So thanks to John for giving us something. We put it out on Twitter, so thank you to all those that responded, uh, giving us topic ideas. If we don't get to your topic today, don't worry, we have it logged. It's not lost. But yes, MLB collection game announced, and you are being rewarded for having collections above a certain threshold. For rare and limited, you can have it's a higher requirement. You have to have more cards, but for super rare and unique, it's a little bit easier. I think you have to get about 2 to 3 cards at those scarcities, which are obviously a little bit more expensive. Um, and so it's rewarding those. It's the collections are not just for 2024. They extended the eligibility all the way back to year one in 2022. So if you have an old collection, that is still valid for this. So shout out to them for including that. I could have definitely have seen them saying, "Yep, this is a in season only thing. Your old collections are great, but that's just XP for your players. If you want to win tickets to the All Star game, you got to buy new cards. Totally get that. Um, it's really funny. There was a time last summer when I thought I was going to be Powell Trader of the MLB, and I started buying a couple galleries, and there were several galleries I bought where I got a few one ofs, and I kind of expected at the time, in Josh's favorite word, homogenization fashion, that the soccer emphasis on one ofs and jersey mints would eventually find its way to baseball, and that those cards would be more valuable. So I've been hanging on to those. But what's so funny, my willpower to hold out ran out.
Oh,
Slash, I was just like, I, these cards are just not selling. So I ended up listing the players at the same floor price as the other non collection cards. And I go to bed, and then I wake up, and all of I forgot that I had these cards listed, and all of my MLB one ofs jersey mints, they sold. Snap sold.
no, no.
Um, hey, I'm not going to complain. I got the ETH balance, but I was like,
True.
wow, I people react to news super quick, so it's always a good thing, learn from me. If you have a cards listed, just make sure to check in, if the guy gets hurt, if the guy goes bonkers, you don't want to have a backup goalkeeper listed, or if your starter just all of a sudden throws a complete game, you don't want to just have that guy lowballed on the market and just get, when you could sell it for probably a couple more bucks. So definitely want to shout that out. But yeah, collection event, you get rewarded for having cards, and it looks like there's some pretty cool prizes. Josh, any of them prize wise catch your eye?
I mean, the top prize is pretty exciting. A VIP All-Star Game package. Um, Also merch. Gotta love that.
Yeah.
Of course, cards, boxes, all that boring stuff. But we're in it for the tangible items that you can win, including first place or not. I guess it's weird calling it first place. The
Yeah.
top winner, I guess, wins a trip to the All-Star game, which is very exciting. The All-Star game is in Texas,
Oh, is it Rangers?
where the
Ranger Stadium?
Rangers play.
Hmm.
Yes, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly.
I'll do some fact checking.
Fact
It
check me.
is in Arlington. You are correct. Home of the Texas Rangers.
Very good. The Texas Rangers might come up later on in this podcast. Another teaser. Um, but
Because they
yeah,
partner with Dude Perfect.
there you go. But yeah, it's a cool little thing that they're doing. I'm guessing there's going to be some more things as we get closer to the All-Star game. I'm a little curious how this collection game, outside of the top reward, which makes sense, how does this game relate to the All-Star game? Because when I
Hmm.
first read it, I thought it was going to be like, oh, collect the All-Stars from this season, last season, the season before, whatever. And that's the collection game, like how they did the MVP or award winners collection game in the off season. I thought it was going to be more kind of like that as opposed to just collecting and that gets you entry into this giveaway. Um,
Hmm.
but I guess it makes sense with the top prize being a trip to the All-Star game. But
Yeah,
it was a
I
little
th
misleading, I guess.
yeah. I think when they've done it in the past, where they've had special challenges that target a single player or group of players, what we saw was the price of those players artificially rose during the
Right.
event. And then as soon as the event is over, the rug gets pulled out and all those prices plummet. So probably not a great look if your top prizes are just going up for, the time of a promotion. But I think with this event, there probably will be some like people that are buying, but like what I did, I actually did buy some cards for this since it's really cool. They show you which teams you're the closest to. So there was a few where I was one card away from actually qualifying for an extra ticket. And if you buy a rookie card, that's 30 points towards
Right.
your total. So I bought those for the least possible. I went through the collection, found the rookie with the lowest floor price, bought that, and I'm probably not going to sell after this event, maybe in the future. But I don't think there's going to be too many people that just buy a bunch and sell. Maybe some of that, but hey, Sora gets their 5% cut, so maybe they're okay with that.
Right. Um, and if I'm reading correctly, you get one entry per team that you're above that threshold.
Yes. Yep.
And obviously, the more entries you have, the more likely you are to win something.
Yes. Which is
Okay, that
cool
makes
because
sense.
they did it. I like how they did it. And that's, I think, what people have speculated about before with when they were doing lots of football jersey drops, that they would have, because essentially with football, there was like 30 jerseys and it was whoever had the fastest internet connection got them. They could have done
Right,
something similar like that where they're like, all right, this special hat event is coming. Who can check out the fastest? But rather than, or the flip side, they could just give it to all the whales, and then everyone would naturally be upset with that since no one really loves the rich getting richer.
right,
But the way that they did this, where they gave additional entries for whales, but still gave out entries for those that have less. It's essentially a raffle. And if you're listening to this, you have one raffle ticket. So everyone automatically gets one. Since I think that's probably how they had to do it legally. Um, so I was like, this kind of would
yes,
be a literal lottery if they didn't
right,
do that.
right,
So don't think even if you don't have any collection, you're still going to be part of this. Maybe you'll be that lucky winner. Um, and what's cool, there's theoretically YNWA probably has the highest chance. However, theoretically, Josh and I have the same chance as him. I mean,
right.
minus obviously the odds.
The beauty with a raffle type format for a giveaway is you could buy 500 cards into or tickets into a raffle, and somebody who buys one could win just the same as the person who bought 500. So even someone with just the free entry, you have a chance. You're in the game. So like you said, there's some statistics to it, but you could have all the collections in the world and still not win.
The important thing, and I don't know if they've disclosed this, how they announce the winner, I think to me is the difference between this being a complete success and this being a complete flop. So they have perfected the reward boxes. Those have gotten better. We kind of did call that out earlier in the season when they displayed the prize inside when you didn't even open it. Obviously, that's not fun.
Right.
Um, so if they can get the raffles correct in that, I'd imagine it work if it worked similar to boxes where you had your tickets and you clicked on it and it would like you'd rip it. Or I'd imagine it'd be even more fun if John was in the New York office and he had one of those wheels with everyone's name on it and they
Yeah,
literally just drew names on a live stream. Like that would be fantastic. So there's so many different ways they could do it, but I really hope it's not just a tweet with, hey, these are the winners, but something that's a bit
agreed.
more interactive.
There definitely is like I don't know what the right word is. I wouldn't be accusing Sorare of doing something fishy, but there
Mm,
is a there is a like honesty
true.
to it if you're doing it on a live stream where you can actually like see them picking the names, you know? Again, I don't think they're actually doing anything fishy, but it makes it a little bit more true feeling in that sense.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
more
true.
exciting.
Yeah. Not only does it make it cooler, it also definitely, to Josh's point, it adds to people won't accuse them of rigging it
Validity,
or, yeah,
that's
yeah,
the word I think
exactly.
I was looking for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's great. And I don't know. So how many entry tickets do you have? Obviously, you have
I
the
know
one.
I was just scrolling through my collections. I have one, two, three, one rare and two limited.
Wow, both Brewers.
Both Brewers. My rare is Marlins. I have five
Oh,
rare Marlins cards.
wow. Well, and it helps
Not
if you have
on
the Ruiz rookie, right?
not on purpose, correct. I have two
Hmm.
rookies, and I believe they are
Oh,
all first owner
nice. Yup.
because they're all rewards. Because why would you buy Marlins cards?
Right, right. Hey, shout out Jake Berger, Tim Anderson.
True, true.
I don't know.
Yes. But yeah, the other two are are the two Brewers teams,
Wow.
which is funny. Rare Rockies, another team. Why would you buy from 120?
Okay, you got to get that. You got to go. You got to
There's
get on
probably,
that.
let's see here. The beauty is it tells you.
Yep. It says
Um,
exactly what the filler price is.
so correct. So it's 20 points for having the card and then 10 bonus for rookie.
Correct. So you're
So
so no, sorry, rookie is 20 points. 10, you get 10 for owning it. You get an
10 for owning
additional
it.
10 in 90 days. So theoretically, the 30 I was talking about, those will all be 40 points. But for the purposes of this event, if you bought a non-rookie, it only add 10 to it. Buying a rookie
Sure.
adds 30 to it.
Okay. So I basically need one rookie card from this
Yes.
season in order
Yes.
to get to the 150.
Yep. One rookie or
Uh,
three regular guys.
Jake Bird, relief pitcher, rare, rookie. Looks like he has a card for 475.
Okay. Okay.
So there you go. And that should be enough to get me over. That'd be my fourth entry.
Whoa.
Red Sox 110, Braves 100. Like those are close, but maybe not as close as you'd like. Maybe with a couple rewards, hopefully over the next few weeks, you can bump up one of your
It's true.
collection teams and get a little closer.
Yeah, that would be cool if you could. I know the rewards have gotten a little bit better. Be sweet if you could target, like let's say for this season, if you said, "Hey, I want a Cub or I want a Brewer, and I don't care if I'm eligible for a star, and the first Brewer is only a tier one, you know, give the star to somebody else. I want the first Brewer on the list. Like
Right.
that'd be sick if they ever did something
Yeah.
like that.
Well, either way, I'll be rooting for the both of us. There's a decent amount of winners, so I feel like
Yeah,
between the three of us, we'll have a decent amount of entries, and hopefully, even if it's a box, that's fun.
seriously.
It's winning something in a raffle, so we'll see.
Yeah, so there's about 300 prize or 500 prizes um eligible with the 300 of it. I count the coins. I'm not
Yeah,
a Jacob's a big coin stan.
you could probably take 200 winners out of it. Um, Coins, like you said, 2000 is a good chunk. Like that's probably 3, 4 weeks of competitions, 3, 4
That's
game
true.
weeks of
That's true.
competitions. Uh, Definitely not as exciting as all the other things on the list, though. So you're right. Probably about 250 to 300, like pretty exciting things to win.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about it in a future pod, the value of a coin versus a box. Obviously, the boxes that are eligible are the premium version, which have the better odds. However, I
Yep.
think personally, right now, I mean, this might be a terrible take. I'd have to crunch the numbers, but just given the fact of what's in the merch shop, I think I would rather, if I won coins, I would rather have a standard box instead of coins. Since
I think I agree with you.
I'd want to get some cards. But
Yeah.
granted, maybe the coin will have some additional utility around the corner, and I will look like an idiot for saying that. So hopefully that's the case too.
I'm currently up to $177 in market credit and 22,000 coins.
Oh my God. Okay, I did buy some training lineups.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
I'm still
My
holding
market,
out for like a so rare jersey, a baseball jersey, but we'll see.
yeah, given the fact that these are going to be part of this special competition, that makes me a little bit less hopeful that those will be coming as part of the merch shop, but maybe at the end of the
Right.
season, we'll see.
True.
Shall we get into some baseball?
Let's do it. Let's do it. So, I guess we'll talk about our thought process first, and then we'll get into what we're talking about. But um, I think what we're gonna do. We still need to work out the kinks. Let's just say that. But I think what we're gonna try and do is we'll still talk Sorare MLB like we just did, especially when there's big updates. Some weeks more than others. Some weeks maybe not at all, depending on what's going on. But we're definitely going to start to include more focused topics on MLB specifically. You probably won't hear us talk much basketball or soccer from this point on. Again, it all kind of depends if there's crazy stuff going on that just can't be avoided. It'll get talked about, but I think we're each going to pick kind of a trending topic from the current week of the MLB and hone in on that and do a little research and get a little more educated on the ins and outs of whatever that topic may be. And then we're gonna talk about it as you do on podcasts. Um, so let us know what you think about that. If that's intriguing to people out there, we'll run with it. If that's not what you're looking for, then we can always adjust as need be too.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, the list of our listener feedback has been fantastic. And yeah, if you're listening out there and you have a friend that's maybe not interested as much in sower but loves baseball or loves sports, hey, feel free to let them know about us. We're always trying to grow our community. But yeah, like Josh said, we're gonna try to focus not just on covering so rare explicitly like we just did, but again, talking baseball, there's always going to be ways that we're going to be I would say in probably with every segment, there's going to be some element of so rare to it. With both the topics that Josh and I have today, I know we're going to be talking a little so rare within it. Since the best thing I think about so rare is that it does represent baseball, and what happens in baseball matters to so rare, and that is a really cool aspect of the game.
Absolutely. All right. So, we'll jump. We'll get started with my topic first.
Oh yeah.
Um, I guess if you want to look at positives and negatives, mine is more on the negative side. So what we'll be diving into is it's June 11th as we're recording this. We are 2.5 months into the baseball season already. We are a good 65 games, which is um over a third of the way through this MLB season already, which is crazy to think about. So it's probably a pretty good time to look at who are the biggest busts so far this MLB season. Because we're not talking about these silly little sample sizes. We're not a month into the season and this team got off to a terrible start. We're over a third of the way in. The All-Star game is in like less than a month.
Yep.
And there's some big teams out there that are not performing, have not performed all season long. And Andrew, by the end, I will pose to you. I want you to pick the biggest bust so far this MLB
Okay.
season.
Okay. Okay. All right. And
So,
when we clarify, we're talking teams too. We're maybe talk a
teams,
little bit players.
sure,
But definitely can bring up players, but for now we're focused on the teams as a whole rather than specific players.
absolutely. And of course, without the production of some players, these teams are not performing.
True.
So it kind of
True.
works hand in hand. But so what I did is I went back and I looked at what were the World Series odds, the betting
Oh,
odds at the beginning of the season, and I plucked one team from each division that was the top World Series betting favorite. So starting in the AL East, of course, it was your New York Yankees.
wow.
Moving on, it was the Houston Astros. In the AL Central, it was the Minnesota Twins.
Okay. Okay.
In the NL East, it was the Braves. The Central was the Cardinals,
That's
and the West was the Dodgers. Okay, so just keep that in the back of your mind. So I looked at two different things. The first thing was betting odds. The second thing was an ESPN article that ranked each team in terms of a tier. So tiers 1 through 5.
hmm.
So tier 1 was teams that were basically a lock. Like these are your World Series teams, and that was the Braves and the Dodgers. Of course, they're both in the NL, so they can't both be World Series teams, but those are the two highest tiers on the ESPN list. Tier 2 was the Astros, Orioles, Phillies, Rangers, Yankees, Rays, and Diamondbacks.
Hmm.
Okay. Interesting if you think about it. Next, tier 3, Mariners, Blue Jays, Twins, Padres, Cubs, Giants, Reds, Cardinals. Every NL Central team outside of the Brewers and the Pirates.
Wow.
If you'll notice, they have not listed the NL or AL Central first place teams yet. Tier 4 was your Mets, Red Sox, Guardians, Brewers, Tigers, Marlins, Angels, Pirates, Royals. Tier 5 was Nationals, White Sox, Rockies, Athletics. Now, what I did to keep it organized is I went through and I highlighted the top two teams in each division to see
Nice.
what tier ESPN had them and where they are now. Braves and Dodgers spot on. Kind of. Dodgers spot on. The Dodgers are good. They're gonna be good. They're gonna be World Series favorites. Let's be honest. The
Yep.
Braves, however, missing their MVP, their best player, Ronald Acuna, and kind of underperforming and getting pretty outplayed in their division by the Phillies.
Yep.
We'll talk about them a little later. The Braves, still 8 games over 500, so maybe not necessarily a bust, but definitely underperforming. The other teams that stood out to me in the tier 2 section, the Astros, the Rays, and the Diamondbacks. Now, what I went through is I picked out some of the top betting favorites, the top tiers from ESPN, and I looked at what's their record, where are they in their division, how many games back are they, and what number were they on the World Series betting odds, betting favorites list.
Hmm.
So I'll read you those, and then you have all the stats that I could come up with, all the data, all the bias and unbiased, maybe. And I want you to pick out, we'll say one NL team, one AL team as your biggest bust so far. How about
All
that?
right. All right.
And then I'll give you mine and see if we match up.
Okay.
So, starting with some heavy hitters at the top of the list, Astros are sitting at 30 and 37, third place in their division. They're 7.5 games back. They were number 3 on the World Series favorites list to start the year. Not looking good. I will say they had a pretty rough start and they've picked up a little bit, but they're still 7.5 back in the division, which is not great for them. So next on the list was the Rangers, your defending World Series champions, sitting at 31 and 34 in second place. The AL West is a mess. We won't get the explicit signal or sign on this podcast. I was thinking of a different way to describe it. So 31 and 34 in second place. The Mariners, shout out to them. They've picked it up and are currently winning the division. They're 5.5 back, and they were number 5 on the betting odds list. So those two are pretty heavy hitters, like I said. You can debate some of these other ones. I had the Rays on there. The Rays are kind of perpetually disappointing, I feel like. They're sitting at 31 and 35, which is similar to the Rangers, but they're in last place in the AL East and 15 games back. 15. That is borderline. You can't make that up at this point in the season. 15 games back. Shout out to the Yankees, I guess. All is right in the world. The Yankees are back. And they were 11th on the World Series list. So not too high up, but in the top third of teams, which is decent. Next up, we had the Blue Jays, who the Brewers are currently playing. 32 and 34 in fourth place, 14 games back in the same division. They were 8th on the World Series list.
Wow.
All right. Next up, this team, I would argue, is probably the least disappointing on this list, but another team in their division is doing so well. And it's the Minnesota Twins. They are 35 and 31, which is a decent record. I'll give them that. But they're in third place, and they're 8 games back in the division to the Guardians, who are a tier 4 team. A tier 4 team. The Guardians and the Royals were both listed as tier 4 teams, and they are sitting first and second in the AL Central.
And the Brewers.
And the Brewers, yes. The Twins were 10th on that list that I was talking about. Next up, another team very similar to the Rays is the New York Mets. I think the Mets definitely had the least expectation going into the season of a lot of these teams, but they're the Mets. They're always top 5 in payroll, top 10 in payroll, and they just can't put it together. They're 28 and 36, fourth place, 16 and a half games back of first place. They were 15th, right in the middle on the World Series list. That is the biggest deficit of teams here, 16 and a half games. Next two teams I'll list together because they go hand in hand. Your Cubs and your Cardinals. They are currently sitting in third and fourth place in the NL Central, both 7 games back of your Milwaukee Brewers, and they were 12th and 13th on the World Series list. Cardinals were favored to win the division, by the way.
Wow.
Yikes. And the last team on this list, which is also up there, is your Arizona Diamondbacks. 31 and 35, fourth place, 9.5 games back. Maybe whoever Las Vegas, I guess, whoever makes the odds, which would be Las Vegas. Maybe they were onto something because they were only 14th on the World Series betting favorites list. So maybe they knew something we didn't, but they were in the World Series last year. So you'd expect a similar outcome or a similar product this year, and it hasn't been the case. Now, that's the list I had. I will throw a sneaky pick on there and throw on the Atlanta Braves because they are doing all right. They're sitting in second place in the NL East, but with a record of 35 and 28, not too bad, 7 games over 500. They are 9 games back in their division because the Phillies have been playing so well. Now the Braves are a team that you'd expect to win the division year in and year out and make deep runs into the playoffs, which I don't know. I'm not convinced on them. They've been relatively disappointing. So I will also throw the Braves on there if you want to go hot take route.
Wow. Those are some good facts. I was looking at, so one of my favorite stats to look at is payroll by teams. And you're absolutely right. The Mets are not just top five, they're number one in payroll. For
Brutal.
reference, the top five, and I'll list them: Mets, Yankees, Astros, Phillies, and Texas. So couple of teams that we mentioned in the potential bust category are all rocking some very expensive payrolls. It's kind of funny. I don't think of the Phillies as a big money team, but the thing is, I think we kind of got to treat them like they are. They
Yeah,
really are. I mean, statistically, like they do. They have a huge payroll. Um,
they do.
but when we're talking busts, I think I got to go one from each side, NL and AL. So I think my AL, or I'll start with NL first. My NL
Okay.
bust is the Mets. I know the expectations weren't so high for them going into this season. However, it's still New York. They want to have a great team. When the Mets are not playing well, it's embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think for me makes them such a huge bust is that we're talking about them as potential sellers, not buyers going into this trade deadline. If you tell me that the Brewers would be potential buyers and the Mets would be sellers, that's I would have said you're living in Candyland. That's crazy. There's no such thing. Um, Totally hear you on the Braves. I think that's probably my second one. Um, I can't with injuries, it's hard to, with Acuna not being there. However,
Right.
our podcast giveaway, Mr. Max Fried, has not had the greatest start to his Braves career. Um, and not to mention, you lose Spencer Strider. They
Right.
just and but the crazy thing though is that the Braves stats have regressed more on offense than pitching. So we point to all the pitching stuff, but it's really their hitters that haven't really come through for them. Um, and kind of related to that, my AL pick is the Houston Astros. Just in what I think they're a bigger bust personally than the Mets the um
The
or the
Braves.
Braves, but and for the reason that their team is still relatively healthy. If you go through a bunch of injuries, that those add up. But
Right.
if you're still healthy, you're fielding a very similar lineup, and you're paying those guys big bucks. Remember, they're number third in the payroll. You expect to get results. And they went out, they got Josh Hader. They added to their bullpen. They were stacked on paper. Still have a star-studded lineup of Tucker, Altuve, Gordon. Uh, but they just haven't gotten it done. And I think like that is pretty disappointing. If I was an Astros fan, I would be disappointed too. Maybe they got to bang on the drum a little bit louder so that they can hear.
Absolutely. Um, it is worth noting that I made the argument before I went through everything, but we're pretty far into the season, but it's not even the All-Star break yet. Like things can definitely change. We could be sitting here in August, and the Astros could very well be in first place of their division. I wouldn't be surprised by that. It would be a pretty solid comeback in their division, but it wouldn't be the most surprising thing. So a lot of these teams definitely still have time to turn their seasons around. I wouldn't
Not
be
the Mets.
surprised if except the Mets. The Mets are dead. Let's be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a number of teams on the list that I went through. Turning it around, being in first or second place, and in a postseason spot. So there's definitely still time that is worth noting. Now, in terms of going or looking at it from a Sower perspective. I'm not going to sit here and say don't target players on these teams because they won't make the playoffs. But we're at that point in the season where you are going to start, if you are going to start investing in new season cards or in new cards in general. You probably want to look at some of these teams that are poised to make the playoffs. It's always a perk to having teams that you can field in the playoffs come that time,
True.
and still be able to fill lineups for competitions because there's going to be less competitive lineups at the time because half the teams won't be playing. So it's not the most vital thing to do right now, but it's definitely something you can keep in the back of your mind when buying new cards.
Now I got to
To
hear.
go, all right,
Yeah.
I'll give my two teams. I
Drum
think I want to
roll.
be different. I think I want to be different. It would be boring if I was like, yeah, I agree with you. Um, I think for me in the NL, I think it's
Yep.
the Diamondbacks.
Oh, okay.
I think it's the Diamondbacks. Now, again, not the highest expectations going into the season, but a team that just came off going to the World Series. Like the expectation's going to be somewhat high, regardless of what the talent actually looks like.
Yeah.
Now, on this list, I don't think they are the most talented team that is underperforming. But when you have guys like Corbin Carroll, who is rookie of the year, who's been
Yep.
playing terribly, he's not been hitting the ball well whatsoever.
Nope.
Um, and they have other guys. Ketel Marte hasn't been doing great. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. hasn't been doing great. Um,
Zach
you
Allen,
could go on and on. Yeah, their pitching hasn't looked as good as it did last year. So,
PFAT.
um, yeah, I think just from the fact that they're sitting 10 games back out of first place in a division that is going to be really hard to be competitive in the first place, I don't see them making up much ground with teams like the Dodgers, the Padres who are in second place. Good for them. The Giants are competitive this year, so they're
Yep.
sitting below very competitive playoff potential teams. And I don't know if they have it in them to make a run like they did last year. And then going over to the AL side, it's got to be the Tampa Bay Rays for me. A team, again, the record isn't
Wow.
horrible. I'll give them that, 31 and 35, but they're in last place in their division, and they're 15 games back out of first place.
Yep.
Um, it's just a team that you expect to be competitive every year. I want to say they were one of the favorites to win their division, if I'm not mistaken. Um, they definitely were up there. I'm guessing the Yankee, again, you're looking at a very competitive division. The Yankees, the
Wow.
Orioles, good, very good teams, some of the best teams. The Red Sox have been solid this year, and they're sitting below all of that in last place of their division. So it's the Rays for me.
Mm. Hey, but they're getting a new stadium though. Maybe it's the time. It's the time. Gotta.
Maybe.
I don't know how close it is to the Trop, but maybe it's a little construction noise on the way into work for these guys. Who knows? But
That'll give
yeah,
them the motivation.
but I'm gonna be mean to the Rays. Sorry if we have any Rays listeners, but I never think about the Rays.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair.
I think about the Rays in terms of thank you for Willie Adamas. That's really the
Yes.
only. And I actually I have Randy. I bought his in season card. Um,
Lost.
but yeah, no, exactly. I bought him a couple weeks ago in the hopes that he would start turning it around. But unfortunately, he might have entered him. He might be on the IL soon. He was pulled from today's game. So
Oh
if you're
no.
a Randy manager, check that out, monitor the situation. But yeah, not a great season for the Rays. Absolutely.
I think to shed a positive light on the topic, I think we have to give credit where credit is due. So shout out to first the Dodgers.
Yeah.
The expectations were incredibly high, and they're doing it. So shout out the Dodgers. Shout out the Yankees. I don't think people were again. The Yankees were pretty high up for odds to win the World Series, but after such a disappointing year last year, I don't. I think people were a little scarred, and they've come out and they've been the best team in their division by a good margin. Orioles are right there with them, so shout out to them too. And a huge shout out to the Cleveland Guardians, a
Yep.
tier four team nobody thought was going to be that good. And they are 20 games over 500 and 4.5 games in first place. So shout out to them. They're having a great year so far. Hopefully they can keep it up. And of course, it wouldn't be a podcast without talking a little bit about the Brewers, who were projected, I think, 76 wins. And
Yeah,
they're right now looking to smash that out of the water. And they're sitting 7 games into first place in the NL Central. So, of course, shout out the Brewers.
I think I obviously, it's hard because we are so biased, but I think the Brewers are the biggest positive surprise in baseball.
Brewers and Royals, I would say, are the
Yes.
top two biggest surprises.
And maybe Guardians too, but
Yeah.
the
Shout out the
Joe,
Centrals, man.
yeah. Yeah. We're not flyover country, man. We
Oh, yeah.
we're we're real baseball country. Um
Yep.
but yeah, with both teams, there are people that are just playing at a high level that, it's not a fluke. This, like Josh said, we are almost halfway through the season. This is a big sample size. Again, like past performance does not indicate the future. All of these
True.
teams we just praised could just go on to lose.
Yeah.
But at this point, I think, the Joey Ortizes, um, the Seth Lugos have kind of shown like, yeah, we're here to play.
Right.
Bobby Witt, Vinny,
Bobby Witt, dude. Shout out Bobby Witt, man. He's been going off.
yeah, such a
All
good
right.
player.
I'll wrap it up with one final question for you. And
All
it's a
right.
very simple question. Will the Houston Astros make the 2024 MLB playoffs?
Yes.
Okay. All
Yep.
right.
And they're my
Fair
biggest
enough.
disappointment, but I'm also a big Astros fan. It's funny, two of my collections that I am eligible for are both 2 different years of the Houston Astros. So I
Wow.
I, I put my cards where my mouth is.
They are currently 5 games out of a wild card.
Not worried. Disappointed, but not worried.
There you go. There you have it.
All right. So should we go a little bit over the sea,
Across the pond, mate.
across the pond, and discuss this year's London games, mate? How's
Oh
that
man,
one for you?
that was good. You committed to it. It
All right.
always comes out a little Australian.
Yeah. I'm amazed at actors and actresses that just can do the accents so well. Never been able to do that. Never really been a big theater play guy. Never had the opportunity. So maybe. But yeah, people that can do
It's
accents.
always so funny to me when you watch a show or a movie and then you look up the actor, actress, whoever, and you're like, that guy's British?
Oh yeah, that's
My prime example is Rick Grimes. I watched
mm,
5 or 6 seasons of The Walking Dead and then
yep.
found out that he was British, and I was like, how? Like, you don't hear it whatsoever, which is very impressive, like you said.
All right. Shall we get into some facts?
Let's hear it.
Okay. Well, did you know where they played the games?
I was questioning this because whenever big things happen in England, in London, I should say, it's at Wembley. But I don't think
Correct.
they put a baseball stadium in Wembley
Correct.
or a
It was
baseball
not at
field.
Wembley. It was not at Wembley. So I
Was it at an
think
actual baseball field? Like, do they just
no,
have it? Okay, so was it one of the soccer stadiums?
it's West Ham, baby. They played at
Really?
West
Okay.
Ham.
The
Yep.
Hammers.
The Hammers.
What is
And
West Ham Stadium called? I'll
that's not
look it
the
up for you.
Emirates. No, the Emirates is Arsenal. West Ham
I know
is
Stamford Bridge is
are they
Chelsea.
American Express? Are they the American Express one?
It's London Stadium.
London Stadium. There we go.
Da.
All right. Shout out to the
We just
Gunners. No,
lost
that's
all of
Arsenal.
our British
The Hammers.
listeners. We just
Yeah, yeah,
lost
yeah.
all the British listeners.
Hey, this is why they should listen to us talk about baseball because clearly, if your baseball podcast knew a lot about soccer, I think they probably aren't a good baseball podcast.
It's a red
Uh,
flag.
exactly. Um, Anywho, just like if your mechanic uses big words. No, shout out to mechanics. I don't mean to throw mechanics under the bus. But we had an attendance record. Over
Oh,
53,000 people attended the game. That is more than Wrigley. That's more than Miller Park. It's more than Fenway. I think that might be more than every MLB stadium. I don't know if there's a 50 pluser.
I think you're right.
American football stadiums are obviously bigger, but baseball parks, I think they only go 45 to maybe 50 if you put people on the field. Um, and obviously, it's a great, exciting gameplay. I'd say by now most people have probably heard, the ins and outs of the series. Since we are a food podcast, one of the cool things I want to highlight is that they incorporated food from both Philly and New York City. So
That's
the
cool.
menu sounded pretty sick. So let me read you a couple of them. We had obviously
Cheesesteaks.
New York style pizza,
Pizza.
uh,
Those are my two guesses was
New
pizza
York
and
style
cheesesteaks.
bagels with cream
Bagels
cheese
was
and lox.
also, yeah, that was also on my mind.
And then apparently New York style hot dogs with mustard, sauerkraut, and onions. I've
Yeah.
never heard of
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah.
but yes, obviously nailed the Philly food, got your Philly cheesesteaks. British people could not believe that what the cheese was. They thought it was something that shouldn't be consumed, and they're probably absolutely right.
Probably right.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that definitely didn't jive with the British diet, seeing all that fake food. But hey, that's what we bring to that's what Americans bring there. Um,
That's true.
but what's kind of overlooked though with these games is that they coincide with MLB's initiative to try to grow the game outside of the US. And what I mean by that is they're not just trying to get fans in. Obviously, extra tickets, jersey sales won't help, will definitely help. But they're setting up youth camps to encourage people to learn, or not just people, kids to learn to play baseball and foster that sport within the UK. So there were a couple camps across England that were organized as part of these games. So now, to try to grow like literally the game of baseball. So maybe in 20 years, some British podcasts will have some little league stories about
There you go.
their kid eating grass or um, but I think like, you know, NFL has been very successful at playing games outside of um, obviously the United States. Baseball, I think, is more global than the NFL in terms of where their players come from. Huge,
Absolutely.
Caribbean population, huge South America. We got the Americas down, not to mention all of the love that baseball gets over in Asia.
Hmm.
So it's a pretty world sport, minus, a few areas with Europe being one of them. But I think honestly, with so rare too, that I could see baseball getting pretty big over in the UK as well. And the big thing I want to say at before obviously on the field, it's great that they had such an amazing ending to Sunday's game. But I think the real impact will be what happens in the communities rather than actually on the diamond.
Right. Because I mean, this goes with any sport. You don't grow the game. Sure, it's a catalyst, maybe an aid, you could say. You don't grow the game by going to a place and playing a 3 game series there. It doesn't have the same in the moment you're growing the game, but it doesn't have the longevity of growth. But where the growth comes in is inspiring future generations to get more involved in the game. And that's where you nailed on the head. It's getting the kids involved, and they'll grow up and hopefully be into it more, and then their kids will be into it more, and so on and so forth. So that seems to be like the route that they I don't want to say should take, but are taking to grow the game. um I think what's cool about what the MLB does, what the NFL does, is they go to different countries, different air regions of the world, and they play real regular season games that count.
Yeah.
We see it with soccer teams. I
Mm,
went and watched Bayern play Man City in Green Bay, Wisconsin. But that was just a nothing game. It was a preseason tour. They literally call it the preseason tour or whatever they call it, American tour. It doesn't count for anything. So there's no motivation to bring out your best teams. Whereas when the NFL, the MLB goes to these countries, it counts. It counts the same as every other game they play. So you are seeing what we see on the field. Whereas when
Mm,
soccer teams come here, we don't get to see what fans in England and what fans in Germany are seeing.
mm.
Um, so I think that's what's cool about what these leagues are doing, and I think it's better for the growth of the game. Um, Imagine if Chelsea came and played Man City in Chicago, and it counted. It was a regular season game, a regular Premier League game that counted. I think that'd be pretty
Wow.
sweet. I know that the Premier League is sacred, and fans in Europe or in England specifically would be a hot mess if that ever happened. Uh, but the beauty with baseball is it's a 162 game season. So if your team goes overseas for a couple games, it's not the biggest deal in the world. And that's what's cool about it.
I looked it up too. There are no active British MLB players. There have been in the past some from the UK that have played over in the States. And not just at the youth level, there was actually also a camp where some of the best young baseball players were actually able to play in front of real MLB scouts. They had it at Fulham. Over 90 people participated. So
Wow,
maybe the British, the ceiling for British kids, well, maybe we'll see another ball player someday.
that'd be awesome. It'd be cool to see. And the World Baseball Classic has had success. I think the success is relatively muted. I think the ceiling is higher than what they've achieved. And if you start to really incorporate some of these communities in these countries to get people playing, you could see a super competitive outcome in the competitions like the World Baseball Classic, which would be
Yeah,
cool and very entertaining.
yeah. Like if you look at the Olympics this year for basketball, it's gonna be super competitive. Team USA is gonna have it really cut out for them. Imagine, I mean, and actually World Baseball Class is very competitive too. The South American and Caribbean teams are very, very good as well. So it's typically, a little bit different from a power dynamics. What we see, the great soccer nations aren't the great baseball nations, but maybe that'll change. Maybe the Europeans will pick up some bats. But at the very least, I think more people will tune in, and I really think Sorare has a great opportunity to really show Europeans what American sports are. We have our listener data, thanks to all of you that listen from overseas. They We probably wouldn't be listening to a baseball podcast if it wasn't for Sorare. So I think things like Sorare also help too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm guessing we'll see more foreign competitions in different countries, maybe coming to a country near you in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, and not to mention we can definitely talk more future podcasts, but expansion teams, cities that had teams that should have teams. Shout out to you, Montreal. Cities that should have teams in the future. Mexico City, I'm looking at you. But yeah, there are obviously ways to grow it by playing real games in these places, but you could also put a team in a different city. Obviously, logistics would be a little bit hard if we put a
Right.
team in London. But maybe if we had some sort of faster travel, it could be possible.
True.
But that would be a pretty long layover, even those in the NL East.
Agreed. Agreed. Get your own league started. Why not?
Ooh, that's cool. I would like that.
All right. Well, unless you have anything more to say about the London series.
I'm all good, mate.
I thought I would quickly bring this up from last week's podcast, but there
Ah,
is proof. There is proof. This was the year, the U12 year, um, where we went to state. This is the year that the story comes from, the 9 and 10 year old year. Let's see here. There's me right in the middle, of course. And then the best picture when
oh yeah.
Andrew Jacob and I all played on the same team. And you were correct, it was the Oakland Athletics.
That was, Jacob said that.
Oh,
Yeah,
Jacob
Jacob
said
told a
that.
great story about I've totally forgot my dad interfering, but yeah,
That's
what
right.
Jacob didn't mention, Josh was also on that team. So amazing stuff.
Truly. But there is proof. We didn't just make up those stories. There is proof that we did it. So
Wow.
there you have it.
That's amazing.
Well, do we dare? Oh, I did quickly look up the capacity, 62,500. It's not quite a
Okay.
sellout, but we're talking about a soccer stadium, so
Yeah,
it'd be
wait.
hard to
Okay.
do.
Biggest MLB. While you pull up what I think you're gonna pull up, let me look up the biggest MLB stadium. Oh, wow. The
Is
Oakland
it?
Coliseum is number one,
Yeah, even though they don't even open the top.
which is so, yeah. Dodger Stadium seats 56,000.
I would say Dodger Stadium is definitely in the 50s.
And
So
then
pretty
Chase Field.
close.
Chase Field.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. There you
48.
go.
It's a huge
Okay.
gap between Dodgers and the rest.
There you go. All
Maybe
right.
someone on a bus team.
Um,
Do your Diamondbacks, do an Astros guy. You could do Mets guy.
let's do Cattell Marte.
Oh, okay. Switch hitter, I think. Yep. Oh my God.
Dude, I thought we had
I
it first guess.
Oh, that's sick. Okay, so it's not Carroll. Carroll's a little too young.
And it's
Uh,
righty or lefty righty.
right.
And decent in age. It could be
Yeah.
Gurriel.
Yeah.
He's Cuban. 30 exactly. Um, could be a pitcher.
Yep.
Gallon's probably close to
Yeah,
30.
Gallon is probably, yeah.
28 starting
Yep.
pitcher.
Yep. 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 Oh
Oh,
my God. I totally, okay,
okay.
so
So
he's not a
not
pitcher.
US, not US, not a
Not
pitcher, not a starting pitcher. Could be relief pitcher still.
right. Could definitely be.
Um, okay, let's see here. Walker's from the USA.
Is
Marte's their
Alec
second baseman.
Alec Thomas? Is he US?
I bet he's from the US. Let's just make sure. Yep. Um, um, who's their shortstop?
Oh, he's Gurry. Is Gurriel their shorts? No, Gurriel's their left fielder.
No. And Carroll's in center. I couldn't tell you who plays right for them right now. And it's going to be their shortstop, who I can't think of his name right now.
Okay, well, I saw Ryan Thompson. That was a cheat. He is a relief pitcher. So let's see if it's a relief pitcher.
Okay, we can
And
get
then we can
relief
think
pitcher out of
really
the way.
hard.
And age.
Okay. So it's
Okay,
not a
so
pitcher. So
30. So he's 32 then, right?
yep, he's definitely 32.
Okay. Ah, God, and he's not from the USA. Oh, who could their shortstop be? Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? I'm struggling. I'm struggling. I'm struggling. I'm struggling.
Oh, I got a couple uh Diamondback guys from I have a Diamondbacks collection in So Rare.
Oh, go through. Let's see.
Okay. Uh oh,
Oh,
we got a Suarez
and Junio Suarez is
and
older
Junio
though.
Suarez. Shout out to that.
Oh, he's 32. I
Yep.
thought he was older than that. I bet it's him. Oh, it was. It
There we
was.
go. With the help of So Rare, we were able to get it. Fun fact, you can get your own Eugenio Suarez right now for $4.43 or 0.0013 ETH, if that matters to you. Yeah, build a little collection.
Perdomo.
See, that's why they're struggling.
How old is Perdomo? 24. Okay. Not even close. All right. Well, there you
There we
go.
go.
Not too
With the help of
bad.
So Rare.
Look at what Soda can do for you.
Exactly. Well, that
All
was a
right.
good one.
Well, there you have it. Uh yeah, let us know what you think of this new kind of more guided more structured podcast format. Um, let us know what topics about baseball you want us to deep dive into. Um, and as always, thank you for your support. Don't forget to check out YouTube, subscribe to YouTube, check out Twitter, leave a rating wherever you are listening to the podcast. And as always, and until next week, you just attended batting practice. Now you're ready to get in the game. Peace.
Peace.